3 here, and I'd like to welcome you guys to another episode of The People's Questions, episode 82. I'd first off like to thank all of you guys out there who sent in your questions. They help me out every episode like always, and start off real simple with Mr. Runic Lord. Your first question was, how do I feel about all the massive plot hole elements in the X-Men franchise? Well, it's no question that there's been a lot of consistencies throughout this entire franchise, and with Days of Futures Past seeming to want to use time travel, what's really been puzzling me is that it looks like, from what I heard, it might be canceling out some events that happened in X-Men 3, but to go much further, since, you know, it will be rolling out Wolverine going back to, actually, the 1970s, and joining the X-Men there. I think it may even change the entire plotline, because, as we all know, Wolverine originally didn't join the X-Men till X-Men 1, so to have him join it back then may change a lot of things. One of the biggest concerns that I've had recently with a new picture, which I'll be sure to post right here, is, as you can see right here, Wolverine, Professor Xavier, and Hank McCoy, who, you know, as we all know, is Beast. Beast looks normal. He's human, as opposed to in First Class, as he already looked like a beast. So I'm wondering if it's canceling out the events in X-Men's First Class. I really hope it doesn't, because I really did enjoy that film, but I really just hope that they find a really steady way to tell the story fluently, because that's something that this franchise is really going to need at this point in time. And your next question is, what villains would I like to see in The Amazing Spider-Man 3? Well, since it looks like they're pushing for a Sinister Six type element, which I'm sure they'll be incorporating, two villains that I would personally like to see it come forward is Carnage, because we've never actually seen Carnage before, so it would be nice to see newer villains, and Kraven, the Hunter. So for those of you who don't know, which I'll leave a picture of both of them right here. Carnage, simply insane. As we all know, he's basically a strictly insane version of Venom, and Kraven would be just a physically intimidating villain who could easily be a more than match for Spider-Man, or at least this interpretation of Spider-Man. Next two questions come from Mark Main, and actually you sent in 3 questions, and I actually answered 2 of them in the comments of the episode 81, so feel free to check in there to get the answers to the first 2 questions. But your last question was, what main character from Family Guy do I think they're going to kill off in Season 12? I actually wasn't aware that they were going to kill off anybody in Season 12, but if I had to pick someone, I really doubt it's going to be anyone in the main family, and I really doubt it's going to be anyone in the main circular of friends around the Griffins, so I'm going to pick Qbert, or that old guy, kind of gay guy who has that dog that has no legs, because I think he's been mostly used for comic relief, so you know, that's something that the show has plenty of. So I would say removing an older character simply won't hurt the franchise in a whole. So that's my pick, is who they're going to kill off. The next 2 questions come from Galen426, and your first question is, who has my favorite portrayal of Spider-Man? And I'm actually quite happy that you actually listed all the Spider-Men. And my personal favorite would be Christopher Daniel Barnes, who played the animated version for Fox Kids. He was really the first Spider-Man that I was ever introduced to, and I guess it's like one of those elements as a, you know, the first come first is always best. And so, you know, he had like several seasons of playing that particular version of Peter Parker, to see him go through all these developments, take on all these challenges, and even have these very, very emotional moments, and being able to project that very well was just something that always stood out to me. Tobey Maguire always did a good job for me. I really did enjoy the Sam Raimi films because of him, and I really can't say much on Andrew Garfield because I have not seen The Amazing Spider-Man, but from what I've seen from Amazing Spider-Man 2, he may win me over. And your next question is, who do I think should play Lex Luthor in the next DC film? I've heard a lot of names thrown around, but I think my favorite name recently has been Bryan Cranston from the Breaking Bad series. I actually have not started watching Breaking Bad until recently, because I just want to see what he would maybe bring to the character, and I think he actually fits the profile quite well. Especially if Warner Brothers and DC want to go for the element of bringing an older Bruce Wayne. I think it makes sense to have him match with an equally older Lex Luthor, and I think Bryan Cranston fits that profile perfectly. Next 2 questions come from Criticism Guy 2009, and you first wanted to know, what do I think about Ashton Kutcher taking on such a big role as playing Steve Jobs in the movie Jobs? Well, I recently saw that film, even though I didn't really do a review on it, and I can say that Ashton Kutcher actually did do a solid performance. I won't say it was his best work, per se, and I do think a part like them, I'd say near the beginning, was a bit off, but I do think he did manage to get the main scenes done right, and although I personally don't think he was the best choice for the part, I certainly don't think he was the worst, and I think he did a solid performance. And next question is, what do I think about the gaming shades called intercepts? I actually can't make a comment on that. I really am not sure what to think about this whole thing, especially from what you told me from what they did in GameSpot. But if something does come up, I'll be more than happy to send you a message personally giving you my thoughts, because this whole thing, it seems to be one of those things that they want to add in the world of gaming, which is supposedly going to revolutionize the whole experience of gaming. And when someone tries to add something like that, that's really something I really want to think about in a whole, because I have enjoyed this whole level of experience of gaming, and I really don't want to see it change drastically over the next period of time. So those are just my initial thoughts. So I will send you a personal message. Next two questions come from Mike Styles, and you want to know what improvements for the PlayStation 3 would I'd like to see. Unquestionably, I would love to see the internet browser change. I have 3 PlayStation 3s, and every time I use Internet Explorer, it sucks ass. It always freezes up after I use it for an extended length of time, so I really hope that is not an issue that we will have for the PlayStation 4. So now that we have an official release date of November 15th, I'm really hoping they have a better internet browser, because that was something that really sucked with PlayStation 3. And your next question is, have I ever seen the show Alphas? You know, I've never actually heard of the show Alphas, but you did mention that it's on Netflix seasons 1 and 2, but I'd really like to know, I'd like a personal viewpoint from someone who actually watches the show. I don't really like to read synopsis on shows online, so I trust your judgment. So if it is something that sounds very interesting, then I'll be more than happy to check it out. And finally, the last question comes from I Run With Scissors. And your first question is, what is my pick for Game of the Year so far? It is currently tied between 2 games that I've played, and that is Ni no Kuni and Dead Space 3. I'm currently looking for my final and third nominees for Game of the Year. There are a couple games coming out in the next 2 months, or next 2 to 3 months, which have the potential of taking that third spot for Game of the Year, but as it stands right now, those are my 2 contenders. And the last question is, in my opinion, what is the definitive game for the PlayStation 3? I'm just going to give you the answer right now and say that it was Uncharted 2, and I'm actually going to do a separate video talking about that, because that is such a good question. I like to go into detail as for why I think Uncharted 2 is the definitive game. And with that, that's all the questions you guys sent in to me this week for the People's Questions, and I now have an audience questions for you guys that I'd like you guys to answer. And my question to you is, what was your personal favorite film of the summer? Some of you may know this or not, but my personal favorite movie of the summer was Star Trek Into Darkness, with Man of Steel coming in a good second. And with that, I have also special announcement to tell you guys for the next 2 episodes of the People's Questions. Some of you have been, for those of you who follow me on Twitter and friend me on Facebook, and are friends of me on the PlayStation Network, you know that I've been doing a somewhat of a day countdown, simply because next week I will not be here in Vegas. I will actually be in Texas celebrating my birthday and my brother's birthday together, and he is actually going to be doing the next 2 episodes of People's Questions. So any questions that you sent in the comments down below or to me in a message, he is the one going to be answering. So, you know, keep that in mind, that any questions you send in, you're going to be asking him. So this is a rare opportunity to ask some really unique questions that you wouldn't normally ask me. You might even ask him questions about me, so you can maybe get to know me from his point of view, because no one else knows me better than him. And I would even say in some ways he knows me better than I know myself some days. And with that, that was everything I'd have to say for this episode of the People's Questions. Like always, if you like this video, please like, comment down below, and please subscribe to check for me in my future movie, video game reviews, and topic videos. And like always, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.